I was always a little bothered because I knew I had a lot of ideas and that I had the ability to be creative, but I didn't actually know how to be creative. I actually learned everything I know about food from my family, specifically my grandfather. You know, I would just kind of watch him make everything from scratch, from bread to cured meats, tomato sauce, a full vegetable and fruit garden. He almost defined himself by the food that he prepared. As I got older, I actually began to admire my grandfather more and more and more. Never in a million years, though, did I ever see myself calling the food industry, or even what I do now, which is like this hybrid of many things kind of coming together, as a full-time career choice. You know, I actually always used food jobs to kind of just make me money while I went to school to then go get a real job in an office with cubicles and ties and shirts and all that stuff. Got hired at an ad agency right out of school as a copywriter, and then the recession hit and I lost my job, and I didn't really care. I had been there for a year and I had accomplished a lot. I was expecting it to happen, and it did happen, and it was just a chance to kind of, okay, what's next? Actually, I wasn't unemployed for very long. I was kind of working like a robot, but knowing full well that this was a temporary holding cell for me. I've always hated the idea of living a boring life, and I guess that comes from that earlier sentiment of, you know, wanting to be creative but not knowing how to create, right? So I'm in this position where I want to be creative, but I'm not really given the canvas or the tools to be creative. It's frustrating, so I'm saying, like, no, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I was actually out for beers with my old boss who had actually laid me off when I was working in advertising. He's like, this job, how long do you see yourself there? I'm like, you know, I think I could be like a creative director there. Like, I think I'm gonna try and stick it out for 4 or 5 years and make my way to the top and then figure it out from there. He's like, really? Like, that's what you want to do? I'm like, no. It's definitely not what I want to do. I don't even know why I'm saying that. Like, what about food, Matt? He's like, you've always been so into food. And I was like, no, I can't. Same feelings. Like, I can't do that. I've done all this schooling. Maybe there's something in between, you know? Maybe you don't have to go work in the kitchen, but maybe, you know, it's a matter of trying to be your own boss. Have you ever thought about that? I was like, I think I could be my own boss. He's like, yeah, I think you could too. Do you have any ideas? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, what about sandwiches? So I started writing ideas down. And I'm like, all right, well, what could I call this sandwich place? Because we were talking about Cuban sandwiches at the time. For whatever reason, I wrote Fidel Gastro on the paper. And then I just turned the C into a G. Fidel Gastro, that's funny. I told him this idea, and he's like, yeah, that's great. He's like, now go make it happen. I was like, okay, well, how do you do that? You know, so started researching the steps to starting your own business. The only option was to open up a place called Fidel Gastro. So that's what I was going to do. It was going to be, I remember the idea was Fidel Gastro's Toronto-style Cuban sandwiches. And then I started to write a business plan. I'd never done this before. I researched how to write a business plan, and I went to the bank. And basically they were like, okay, it's great. What do you own to put up as collateral? I'm like, I don't have anything. What do you want? They're like, well, a house. I was like, well, I don't own a house. They're like, okay, well, how about you put your parents' house up? No, you don't understand. Like, I just want to open up a business. They're like, yeah, and that's what it takes. I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, I'm only asking for $100,000. The house is worth 7 times that. Why would I? They're like, that's what it takes. Worst couple days ever. Like, it was just like, are you kidding me? How did I invest so much of my time and love and work into something that was impossible to ever get? And then I remember I was out at a party one night with my best buddy, and it was his band had a party. It was kind of late into the evening, probably midnight at this point, and everyone was starving. And they're like, Basile, like, go cook some food, bro, whatever you want. Opened up the fridge and saw this stuff and all the ingredients to make baked ziti. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a baked ziti at this party, why not? Creating the food for people at this party was just as much a part of the party as drinking and music and laughing. And for whatever reason, I grabbed a piece of paper and I just wrote down dinner with Fidel Gastro. If I couldn't open up a space called Fidel Gastro's. I was gonna create a Fidel Gastro experience and bring that with me everywhere I went. So that because you didn't see physical doors that took you into a place that looked like a Fidel Gastro's, I myself had to literally embody that character and bring it to every single space I occupied. So that when you knew you walked in, even though it wasn't a place called Fidel Gastro's, you knew you were at a Fidel Gastro event. Next thing you know, I wrote a mini business plan in one night. And at the time, someone had told me about this thing called the Toronto Underground Market. It was basically a monthly food event that allowed regular foodies or food entrepreneurs, upstart businesses, an opportunity to sell their stuff to masses of people. And I was like, that's it. So the way I was going to launch the business was at the October event, and I didn't get into that event. And I was crushed, and I almost didn't even want to tell people I didn't get into it, because then it was just like, ooh, buddy, like you just quit your job for this. I figured I still had to launch the business somehow. How was I going to do it? So a week after that event, I decided I was going to host my own pop-up. And I did it out of an art space at Queen and Bathurst, and that space was actually owned by the same boss that I had that conversation with about sandwiches, and the same boss that laid me off 2 years earlier. The business really just started to take off from there, and it's been a lot of work, but somehow I managed to go from a complete nobody in this industry into someone who was finally able to create something, and people liked it.